How many total calories do you think we'll burn on this trip?
Probably about 70,000.
Making a bicycle tour from Little Rock to Memphis before now has pretty much been a non-starter in the adventure cycling world. The problem has been how to cross the Mississippi River at Memphis, which, as you'll see in a minute, can be a cyclist's nightmare if you don't know the secret to the last 2 miles. But now that the Harahan Bridge project is becoming a reality, crossing the Mississippi River at Memphis is going to be a grand experience. So with a green light on the Harahan project, we set out in the summer of 2012 to map a route from Little Rock to Memphis. Our group assembled in Memphis and loaded our gear into a rented van and trailer and headed for Little Rock in the early afternoon of June 21st. We weren't looking for the shortest route. We were in search of a scenic route that would give cyclists a real taste of the beautiful terrain and culture of Arkansas. On this trip, we had the additional expertise of Greg Maxted, director of the Harahan Bridge project in Memphis, and Bud Laumer, the bicycling coordinator for the state of Arkansas. Before starting the mapping ride from Little Rock to Memphis, we rode a 20-mile loop that evening on the River Trail Cycling and Pedestrian Parkway in Little Rock. We started on River Mountain Road, which took us along the banks of the Arkansas River. We crossed the river on the Big Dam Bridge, which is just for bicycles and pedestrians, and then enjoyed a beautiful riverside ride all the way to the pedestrian cycle bridge, where we crossed the Arkansas River again and rode right up to the Clinton Presidential Library. Little Rock has really done a marvelous job of making both sides of the river very bike-friendly. You could easily spend a day on the bicycle here and have plenty to see and do. But the casual riding would end when we began our ride to Memphis early the next morning. We started near the eastern end of Riverfront Park and made our way out of town on a route of lightly traveled, bike-friendly roads. By mile 14, we had reached the Marlsgate Plantation on Bearskin Lake. The Greek Revival Mansion is surrounded by large oak trees and remains a private home. We happened to meet the owner as we stopped for water and shade near the entrance, a very interesting place. By now, the temperature was rising quickly, and we regretted not having left earlier in the morning, a mistake we would not make again. Our mileage today would be about 70, and the temperature on my bike computer would read over 100 degrees. Our destination for our first day ride was a small community of Des Arc, Arkansas, located in Prairie County on the White River. As we crossed Highway 70, we met a couple riding a tandem bicycle across the country. They were headed for Georgia and making good time. They had chosen to ride along busy Highway 70 for a more direct route. After 1,500 miles, I can understand why. We had chosen Carlisle for a lunch stop. Through an inside tip from our Arkansas companion, Bud, we had learned of a local favorite diner called Aveda's. Housed in a renovated quail barn under shade trees in Carlisle, Aveda's offers breakfast to order and an enormous lunch buffet of Southern cooking. It was tempting to overeat, especially in the air conditioning comfort, but we forced ourselves away from the table and outside to enjoy the shade trees with iced tea. Leaving Aveda's, we rode north, crossing over Interstate 40. We continued riding north along Highway 13 for 16 miles until we finally turned east on Highway 38 at Hickory Plains. We were now riding in the heat of the day. The summer of 2012 turned out to be the hottest summer on record, and today seemed to prove that point. We each carried 2 bottles of water, one to drink and the other to pour over our heads. Our support vehicle and its steady supply of water and snacks proved indispensable. We rolled into Des Arc around 3 in the afternoon. Determined to beat the heat of the day, we were in the saddle pedaling out of Des Arc by 7 a.m. the next morning. Our route would be 60 miles in length and would end in Forest City. Our first stop would be Cotton Plant, Arkansas, about 16 miles west of Des Arc on Highway 38. It was a flat ride mostly through the flooded rice fields of central Arkansas. Highway 38 proved to be a good bicycle route with a fairly wide shoulder and light traffic. Every driver was courteous and seemed to welcome us along the way. We reached Cotton Plant just after 8 a.m. and took our first rest and water break under the shade trees at the intersection of Highway 17 and 38. Leaving Cotton Plant, we would remain on Highway 38 until we reached Highway 49, where we turned north for 4 miles, until our route called for a turn onto Highway 306, also known as Old Military Road, headed east. Our next stop would be Colt, Arkansas, where we happened upon Greg and Jim's Grocery and Barbecue restaurant. Greg and Jim's greeted us with open arms and gave us advice on how to best navigate Crowley's Ridge and explained the many varieties of peaches which were ripening on this very day, and that we would be able to buy these peaches along the roadside as we made our way towards Forest City.
Go out that sharp curve and go around, you'll see his little peach shed there on the left. You can't miss it.
The ride through Crowley's Ridge would be 14 miles and take us through the most beautiful terrain of the trip. The rolling hills of Crowley's Ridge are not to be missed and well worth the extra miles. After leaving Colt, we continued along Highway 306, climbing into Crowley's Ridge until we reached Highway 284, where we turned south towards Newcastle. Here we found a treasure trove of roadside peach stands with a variety of peaches. Peaches, it seems, are like varieties of wine. There are many, and all have a subtle difference in taste. As usual, the peach stand farmers were over-the-top friendly and eager to share information about peaches and Crowley's Ridge.
So we're close to the top from Colt.
It's going to get a little worse. Where'd y'all come from?
Colt.
Colt? Oh, yeah, it's going to get a little worse.
We all ate several on the spot and declared the peach to be the perfect snack for the over-the-road bicyclist. Forest City was now less than 10 miles away, but more than a few hills stood in between us. We arrived in good shape at our hotel room in mid-afternoon. After a shower, for most of us, it was nap time.
Five and a half miles out of Forest City, and now the road is beautiful but a little bumpy. And Bud says he's going to have this fixed up.
Yeah, it's not a state highway.
Special.
Our final leg of the tour would take us from Forest City to Memphis, crossing the Mississippi River. Our route would now run south of I-40 and would follow a series of winding Arkansas Delta roads that were flat as a pancake. In fact, you will be hard-pressed to find a hill between Forest City and Memphis. Many of these miles would be along Highway 50, which is well-maintained, smooth, and features a shoulder about 4 feet wide, which doubles as a bike lane. On this Sunday morning, there was very little traffic and only the sounds of wind and birds. The landscape is mostly production farmland, so shade trees are in short supply. With light wind and riding in a small peloton, we were able to make good time much of the morning. After about 35 miles, we stopped at a post office along Highway 147 for a water and snack break. It was hot. The temperature was well on its way back to 100 degrees. We had planned to avoid the traffic of Highway 70 at West Memphis by approaching from the south on a patchwork of tree-lined country roads. When we finally reached West Memphis, we were on the east side, just a mile or two from the Memphis-Arkansas Bridge. With the help of Greg Maxted, the director of the Harahan Bridge Project, we were able to make our way safely to the Memphis-Arkansas Bridge itself.
We're just about to find out that this road does not connect to anything on the other side. what we've done, we've ridden from Little Rock to Memphis, and we're here at the end of Highway 70 in West Memphis. Broadway Avenue ends right here. We are going to follow the MRT sign, and the MRT sign is this dirt path.
When the nearby Harahan Bridge project is complete, cyclists and pedestrians headed to Memphis will be able to ride on a dedicated bikeway all the way to the Harahan Bridge. But for now, we would have to walk and sometimes carry our bicycles almost a mile from the end of East Broadway to the beginning of the Memphis, Arkansas Bridge.
This is where we have to walk across the grass to get to the sidewalk on the I-55 bridge.
On the south side of the bridge, there is a little-known pedestrian walkway, protected from the traffic on our left by the massive bridge beams, and from the river below on our right by a waist-high railing. We rode our bicycles across the bridge in what can best be described as an exciting crossing to Memphis. As it would turn out, the day after we returned to Memphis, Congressman Steve Cohen and longtime proponent and backer of the Harahan Project, Charlie McVane, announced a $15 million Tiger grant had been awarded to complete the bicycle and pedestrian crossing connecting West Memphis, Arkansas with downtown Memphis. So, in the future, those last 2 miles will become the best 2 miles, and in fact, a grand experience. And once you make the crossing, you'll find yourself in the middle of beautiful downtown Memphis, high on the bluff overlooking the Mississippi River, with plenty of hotel rooms, restaurants, basketball, baseball, and best of all, great live music in the birthplace of the blues and the home of rock and roll.